Hello and welcome to Raisina Ideas Pod. As we know, this it has become almost a cliche to say that world is at an inflection point. We are looking at a world order that is rapidly transforming itself. We have major geographies like South Asia and perhaps South Caucasus, which is also undergoing dramatic transformation. Today, to talk about the world and the geography of South Caucasus, and of course, India-Azerbaijan relations, I have with me Deputy Foreign Minister, Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Elnur Mammadov. Thank you, sir, for joining us for this conversation today. Let me begin very broadly. Because we are talking of the global order and the Raisina Dialogue, there has been a lot of discussion about how the world order is evolving. And there has been a despondency about the multilateral institutions not being able to do their job. You have just returned from Geneva. What is your assessment of what is happening at the global level in terms of the institutional foundations of this order? Are they up to the task?
Thank you for the question and thank you for having me. I think we need to take a step back to think of the current international security architecture as being reminiscent of the aftermath of the Second World War. That is when it was established to live up to the expectations that existed at the time. Now, with 70, 80 years that have passed, with many more states that are now present, that have emerged, especially in 60s and 70s, when we turned the page of colonialism. We need to ask ourselves whether the United Nations system itself and its permanent bodies, they are up to task. And that is, I believe, a very legitimate question. Especially in light of the recent developments starting from last year, these questions are being asked here and there. And my answer would be, it is not. It is not responding effectively to the global challenges that it was set up to deal with. Now, the question would be, what could we do in these circumstances? And obviously, we've been advocating for some time for the reforms within the United Nations. If we assume that we don't change the global security architecture, we're not looking for a replacement for the United Nations, but we are suggesting that it works more effective than it does now, then probably the first place to look at would be the Security Council, because it was entrusted at the time with the paramount task of preserving peace and stability on this planet. And if you look at the number of conflicts that have emerged since the Second World War, there have been numerous. And even now, the war between Russia and Ukraine, it continues. I mean, it has devastating consequences, both humanitarian, political. It raises questions about this reshaped order, erosion of the fundamental principles of international law. So one thing that we've been advocating for some time now as Azerbaijan, as a chair of the non-aligned movement, we've been chairing that movement since 2019, that we have to reform the Security Council and provide more permanent seats for states that could represent underrepresented states. We advocate for one seat for a state from the African continent so that they could represent the African states. Most of them were not independent at the time when the system was, the United Nations system was set up. We are advocating a seat for the chair of the non-aligned movement, not saying for Azerbaijan, but whoever holds that position. We're handing over the chairmanship at the end of this year to Uganda. And then, of course, in a 3-year rotation period, there will be other states to represent the organization, which have 120 member states. So in short, there are certain steps that we could take in order to provide for more robust and more efficient peace and security system that is currently failing, to be honest. And I think it's beyond any doubt that everybody agrees that currently the system does not properly respond to the challenges it faces.
So, from global to the regional now, when you look at South Caucasus today, what are 2 or 3 trend lines that you are looking at in terms of security and political order that is emerging in the region?
For So after the collapse of the Soviet Union, if you look at the if you look at the South Caucasus, the first immediate challenge that we had to face was armed aggression by Armenia against our internationally recognized territories. In 1993, United Nations Security Council adopted 4 resolutions condemning that aggression and occupation of almost 20% of our territories. And in a sense, back to your first question, for almost 30 years, those 4 resolutions were not implemented, which also raises a question of efficiency of the United Nations Security Council. There was a second war during which we luckily liberated our territories in September, November 2020. And after that, right after the war, we extended our proposal to Armenia to sign a comprehensive peace treaty in order to turn the page of conflict and put it behind us. That is, I think, the major development that served as an impediment over the last 3 decades for all 3 South Caucasian states, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, to have a full-fledged cooperation among 3 and to tap the potential of this region. And because of that aggression, that was not possible, but it is possible now going forward. So we have with Armenia 3 major tracks now. One is on a peace treaty. We are exchanging drafts of the peace agreements, and I'm part of that group of experts that are working on that and politicians. The second is delimitation of the state border with Armenia, which is also important going forward for security. And the last point is on opening of all transportation links and communication links in the region. So our view, it is up to the 3 states, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, to determine what the future of this region should look like. And we see this as Azerbaijan as a prosperous, stable, and peaceful region going forward. So we hope that Armenia will share this view and reciprocate on our initiatives, and in the coming months, we'll be able to sign a document which would open a lot of opportunities for all 3 states in this region.
Azerbaijan has also had, as you were mentioning, a very variegated trajectory in its foreign policy. It is evolving rapidly. You have made new partners. There is a new matrix of foreign policy for Azerbaijan looking forward. Where does India fit in, and how do you look at India's role in your foreign policy calculus?
So last November, I was here in India to hold the 5th round of political consultations with my counterpart at the Ministry of External Affairs of India. And that gave us a chance to have an overview of the recent developments in our relations and plan for the future. So we looked at the political level contacts, and we agreed that we need more high-level exchanges between the 2 states. We looked at the economic cooperation, and we agreed that we would hold the next round of the Joint Economic Commission that been put in place some years ago between 2 governments, to hold that session later on this year in order to have a similar overview of economic issues. We spoke about cooperation and in other sectors such as humanitarian education. We have 200 students from India that are studying in Azerbaijani universities. We spoke about the events that we could organize jointly, both in Azerbaijan and India. We spoke about the potential of tourism, especially with direct flights that have been resumed since last August between Baku and New Delhi, as well as Baku and Mumbai, and that significantly increased the influx of tourists from India to Azerbaijan. And we spoke about other potential areas of cooperation. So I think that consultation gave an impetus to reinvigorate our relations and take a fresh look at many areas of cooperation. So I would say this is where we are now. And that earlier today, I also had a chance to follow up with my counterpart at the Ministry of External Affairs. We had a quick follow-up on the outstanding issue, and we're seeing that there's progress, and we're moving well.
So, we know that despite some of the differences, trade has been a major driver of the relationship. India has moved very rapidly towards one of the major trading partners. what are some of the things that you are expecting from India to deliver so that this can be ramped up further? Are there any impediments that you foresee, or is this something that is eventually going to resolve itself on its own in terms of the consultation mechanisms that you have developed?
First, on the trade turnover, the number has skyrocketed actually over the last 2 years. Now we're approaching almost 2 billion in trade. Currently, India stands as number 3 in terms of export of crude oil from Azerbaijan. So it's a third most popular location. Last year, we sold more than 2 million tons of crude oil to India. In terms of economic cooperation in other areas, we have now more than 1,000 Indian capital companies registered in Azerbaijan, and that number has also increased from 500 to more than 1,000 now, also doubled in the last few years. So I think if you look at the economic figures, they're a good testament to the fact that it's growing, it's going in the right direction. Of course, as always, there are opportunities untapped that are still on the table, and one of the reasons we are suggesting to convene the next session of the Joint Economic Commission is for the people in charge and for the experts and for the politicians in charge of the development of economic cooperation to consider those untapped opportunities and have a conversation about the possibilities that are still there that we could explore. As always, you have differences both on political and economic area, but we don't see this as a reason to disengage. We think that the only way for us to move forward is to engage and have a frank conversation on what causes those differences and how we could address those differences to provide comfort to the other side. So from that perspective, I would say the numbers are growing, and there is a process in place to address the differences that we have.
Ambassador, you touched upon a few energy in particular, and you touched upon initially connectivity and how energy transportation will be a very important issue, and energy is also driving the bilateral agenda at the moment. So when you look at the regional connectivity initiatives and when you look at India's and partnership in the region, how do you think some of the bottlenecks on the energy connectivity can be removed? Where does INSTC, for example, International North-South Trade Transport Corridor, fit in? And because we have been hearing about it for a long time, but I think there are some real issues on the ground so that it is not getting operationalized.
Yeah, quickly on the energy, something I think it's important to mention is that one of the largest investors in the energy sector of Azerbaijan from this region is ONGC Videsh, which is, I understand, the top 3 energy company in India. And in 2017, they invested in Azeri Chirak Guneshli oil contract, the production sharing agreement, which was signed by the government of Azerbaijan with large foreign investors back in 1994, which is a landmark contract, and at the time was named the contract of the century. And now ONGC Videsh has a stake in that contract, which I believe would be a good example of not only this trade turnover increase between the two countries, but also the fact that there's also mutual investment in place with some other investments of Azerbaijani companies in India. So that I would highlight, because that seems to be one of the major investments in the energy sector by the Indian side. ONGC Videsh also holds a stake in Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline. It's a major pipeline that is being used by the consortium in order to transport oil resources of the Caspian Sea basin to the Ceyhan port in Turkey, to the Mediterranean Sea. So in terms of the connectivity project, so obviously traditionally we've been an oil and gas country with major state revenues being derived from the oil revenues, and then now with gas revenues. But we've also invested and diversified away from this fossil fuel traditional energy sector into turning Azerbaijan into a logistic hub, a transit point, because of our unique geographic location. And due to that, we are now sort of enjoying the benefits of two corridors. One is the north-south, the one that you've raised, the corridor where the first test of shipment of cargoes was conducted in July 2021, when goods were transported from Helsinki, from Finland to Mumbai in India, using the route along the north-south corridor. Now we're also seeing a growing interest to the other corridor, which is the middle corridor, that Trans-Caspian International Transit Corridor, for the shipment of goods from this region to Europe and in the opposite direction. Now, in order to have a competitive edge, we have invested a lot in public infrastructure and logistics and transit infrastructure in Azerbaijan. We now have the largest commercial seaport on the Caspian Sea, with the handling capacity of 15 million tons, which can be increased to 25 million tons. We have the largest commercial vessel fleet on the Caspian Sea. We have also invested in highways and automobile roads. And after the war started last February between Russia and Ukraine, we've seen the increase of 75% in international transit through the territory of Azerbaijan, because this region, before, if it was just an alternative to the north route, now it's being used as a major route for many shipments from Asia to Europe, because obviously of instability surrounding the north route in light of the war. So that is our major direction of diversification from oil and gas, investing in transportation and logistics, and turning Azerbaijan into a transit point, which we've been successful doing so far.
Thank you, His Excellency. It was wonderful to catch up with you to talk about both the regional and the global order, as well as what India and Azerbaijan are doing together. So we have this much time with us this evening.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak up, and hopefully we'll meet next time around to delve into more details.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.